Hello and welcome to another episode of Epic Events. My name is Candace Davis and I'm the Director of Event Programming and Creative Services here at vFairs. And today's podcast is going to be a lot of fun, kind of off the cuff, stirring the pot. My guest today is Aaron Kaufman. He's the president of Fifth Element Group. It's a live experience firm and recognized around the world for all the creative forces they bring to the table. And I'm so happy to have Aaron today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Man, starting off with stirring the pot already, huh? This is going to be an exciting episode for sure.
Yeah, I think you're the one who kind of labeled it that, so I'm going with it.
That's fair. That tends to be my MO, so let's see what we can do.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun episode. I'm excited about this one. It's like bring all the questions to the table. So what we did, I wanted to first off say this. We have a lot of questions, and thank you to everyone who submitted your questions out there. We have some really amazing listeners, and we're going to get to your questions, and we're going to name you, not last name, just your first name, just in case, just to give you a little shout out and ask some of your questions. We had some really good ones come in, Aaron, so I'm excited to get this thing rolling.
Let's rock and roll. Here we go.
Okay. So I want to ask you an easy question first. I want to ask you where you're located in the world and tell us a little bit more about Fifth Element Group.
Yeah, so I'm located in Toronto, which is in Canada. So I'll start by saying that if I have to use the words out and about and we get kind of weird, funny accents, I might say a couple of times too. So that's the Canadian accent coming out. I also tend to talk with my hands a lot, so you're gonna see that throughout the podcast. But listen, that's just the excitement for being here. In terms of Fifth Element is 20 years old now, almost, which is wild to me because I feel like I'm only 20 years old, and so that's kind of a crazy thing. But we're a full-service management design firm, so we work with large-scale brands on galas, conferences, launches, really cool media events, award shows, etc. And really what separates us is that we design and produce the events in-house, meaning that we have an in-house creative team and we tend to not sub out to third parties, which allows us to control the conversation around both budget and creative. And our creative department is second to none anywhere. I love them and they work super hard. And so that's what allows us to produce great events.
I love that. I've seen some photos and some video footage of the events that you've done, and they're spectacular. And you're right, you do all these amazing activations and really, really creative. So kudos to you and your team, and congrats on 20 years. That's a big deal.
That's kind of crazy, right? Like I'm, for someone who's only 30 years old, I mean, that's really cool. You know what? It's so fun because, I know we'll probably get into some things, but when I think about 20 years doing this and how, I'll use the word industry for now, we may change it later, but how the industry has grown, and I'm going to say morphed because I don't know that it's changed so much, which may be a positive or negative, but I look back at the experiences and I'm so excited to see, to play this back in 20 years and think to myself, wow, like that's been, a crazy another 20 years, and probably also to cry a little bit that maybe Fifth Element will be 40 years old and that will be probably my time to exit stage right. So I'm just, I'm blessed to be able to do this and work in a business that I love. And, I'm blessed that it does great things for my staff and my family and everyone else. And so, I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. That's so cool that you're doing this. And yeah, you'll look back on this and go, hey, maybe in 20 years when you listen to this, you'll say, okay, it's time to retire.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
It's one of your kids, I know you have twins, right?
I have twin boys. They're 9 years old, turning 10, and I have a daughter who's 12, turning 13. So, as in 20 years from now, let's hope that they're at least on their way to supporting themselves.
I was thinking maybe you'll hand the business. They can fight over who wants to take on Fifth Element. So we'll have an update on that maybe in about 10 or 20 years. How about that?
I hope for a far better outcome for them than having to do this. But let's see.
Let's see what events it's like then, right?
Absolutely.
So we have a bunch of questions to get to. And when you and I initially first talked, you mentioned that a lot of people have labeled you the Gary V of our industry, and that really excited me. So I thought, let's ask some of our listeners out there and get their opinion and burning questions they have about the events business and the industry as a whole. And we have some really good ones to get to.
Great. I think it's so important that we approach the questions in this industry with honesty, with empathy, but with honesty, because I think that, our industry has a very hard time looking inside itself and actually, trying to grow. And I think people get very complacent and people get very butthurt and emotional about, the feelings in this industry. And for me, I want everyone to be successful and make money. And so I look at that, and that's why I'm so excited to be doing this and answering some questions for you. So let's go.
All right. The first question comes from someone named Madison. So Madison, thank you for your question. It sounds like she might be new to the events industry, maybe just out of college. So let's consider that as we're reading through. So question, how do you stand out from the crowd when you're trying to get into the events industry and business?
Oh, my first bit of advice would be run very fast. But in all honesty, if you have a passion for it, I think that's really how you stand out. I think that there is inherently a lot of creative people in this industry trying to run companies and businesses. And so my best advice is find the thing that you love the most in this industry and do that. You don't need to be a business owner, right? And so what you really need to do is provide value to a company and grow in a company like every other business and every other industry does, right? And maybe one day you find, that the time is right. Maybe you grow a certain love for a very specific part of the industry. But at the end of the day, the way to separate yourself is just go do great work and work with someone who can teach you, right? You don't know anything yet. At 20 years, I'm still learning. And at 30 years, I hope to still be learning. And I never want to be the smartest person in a room, right? Then I'm in the wrong room. And so, my advice for Madison is just get out there and do. Don't work for free. Never work for free. But go and do, right? Take your job and work your ass off, right? This industry is very soft. So if you're the one who's there working, and I'm not talking 60-hour weeks, but if you're doing the job and you're working and you're grinding and you have a good work life, but you really feel the passion and you're there and you're showing great value, just like any other industry anywhere around the world, that's how you're going to stand out.
Yeah, I agree full-heartedly with that. Let's talk a little bit maybe about mentorship. Could you throw something in here that might encourage her and maybe some others that are just getting out of college, let's say?
Yeah.
And, maybe mentorship, maybe they've already interned with, let's say, a company in the events industry in their local area. I know a lot of, college students these days, they'll move to, have a really solid internship with an industry, events company. I know several college students who have done that, and it's been really successful. They've done it to really show them like, hey, I'm moving outside of my comfort zone because I really want to work with you. I really want to learn from you. And they end up usually getting hired by those companies once they, graduate from college. But can you talk a little bit about once you get out of college, maybe the mentorship path, maybe she could consider going down?
Yeah. So, I think it's really important to do your research on an industry. Again, just like every other industry, right? If you want to look at, you look at tech, there's amazing tech leaders, and you can find them all over the place, right? Same with marketing, advertising, all great industries. Events is a little bit different because it's so super unregulated, right? So I think what you really want to do is you want to reach out to someone and you want to have a conversation. This is what I'm looking for from a mentor. This is my expectation. This is what I'm willing to do. What you're going to find is that a lot of, the industry people are really just in for themselves, and there's not a very good mentorship opportunity. I don't think the associations are the best place to go either. I think really, a mentorship needs to be defined. So what are you looking for in terms of a mentor? What is your expectations in terms of a mentor, right? So if someone came to me and says, here's what I'm looking for, I want someone to be able to help me in this area. I'd like an hour of your time a month. I'd like this, I'd like that. Well, then we're qualifying something. A lot of times when people come into the industry, they just expect. And because it's an industry based on hugs and not handshakes, and it's very personal, people expect things. And I think, don't come in and expect things. Don't make demands and things like that. We are business owners too. And so lay it out there. And if anyone's, looking for a mentor, I have a pretty good network. And so at the end of the show, I know we're going to share some of my contact information. You can reach out to me. And if it's not me and I can introduce you to someone else that can help, yes, those can turn into great jobs, but don't expect coming out of college. A lot of the stuff they teach in college is about the kind of the paperwork and stuff like that. This industry, it's just different, and you have to be able to adapt to that, and you have to adapt to the mentor that you're going to work with too.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. So yeah, we'll share your information later on and they can get in contact with you too. Do you have a lot of people reaching out to you for mentorship?
Quite a few. We have a number of amazing college programs up here. So we do get a lot of questions about internships as well. For me, I think, I don't know that I make the best mentor for a lot of people. And I think that's the other thing, right? I think when you do reach out for mentorship, don't allow someone in my position to say, hey, this is someone that's going to work for free. Right. So, if someone, a lot of our industry, they expect or want free, right? Free labor, free help, free this, free that, everything's got to be free, right? People aren't willing to pay for anything. And so I would say, don't let someone say, well, I can mentor you. Why don't you come into my office 2 days a week? And, I can show you. No. That's not a mentor, right? A mentor understands what you want, right? And is willing to accept that role to teach you the things that you need to know, not the other way around.
Exactly.
And so, I think that's, we get a lot of requests for that stuff. And, again, for me, we have great people in my office who I can often recommend too, but you got to be able to be a good mentor too. And I'm pretty busy and I hate the idea that I wouldn't be able to fulfill an obligation. And so, but we do get a ton. I'm happy to talk to anybody about that stuff though.
Great. Wonderful. All right. Next question. James wrote in saying, in your opinion, what's the most underrated skill to have in the event business, and what's an overrated skill? So what's an underrated and overrated skill in your opinion?
Oh, James, thank you for the question. Underrated skill, man, honestly, it's just being yourself. I don't know that that's a skill necessarily, but there's so much emphasis put on trying to be, cool, and everyone's got to be out there, and I got to roll with the cool kids and stuff and whatever else. Like, let me tell you, I've rolled with all the cool kids in the industry, and I have respect for the people who are doing, a ton of great things. But those people are, there is very little movement towards making the industry better. There's also very little movement in terms of allowing people to come and work for you and get better than you.
Yeah.
Right. And so that for me is about be yourself. If you can't get somewhere being yourself, if you're a little more aggressive as a person, if you're a little quieter as a person or whatever else, certainly those are people skills you want to work on. Right. Nobody wants a new hire to come in and be aggressive. At the same point in time, nobody wants someone to come in and feel uncomfortable speaking. Right. So those are personal growth items, but just be yourself, man. Like just, James, it's James, right? James,
yep,
James, just get out there and do you and be great. Overrated skill. Oh, the most overrated skill in this industry is all of this, right? Just be quiet. You know what I mean? It's everyone talks about, the network. Yes, create a network, but do it authentically, right? Everyone's just so busy talking about, I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that. You notice that when we started this conversation, you said, tell me about Fifth Element. I didn't tell you about all the award wins and I did this and I did that, whatever else. This is a company and we work for each other. And so I think the overrated skill for me is just don't talk, right? So much. Come in and just prove your prove yourself, work, right? And that for me, like so many people just lean on their resumes and stuff like that. And that's just not for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Yeah. All right. So be yourself.
Yeah.
I like that. Next up, Ian, his question is, what's your biggest learning from owning your firm?
Oh man, Ian.
Where do you start, right?
Yeah, you know what? I've learned how shitty the industry is in terms of business practices. Sorry, I know I promised I'd watch my mouth a little bit, but
well, if you're going to be in line with Gary Vee, I mean, you kind of.
You know what? This is an industry that has zero empathy, right? But at the same point in time, everyone just complains about the business practices, right? Which is nonsense. So you want people that have, you want empathetic people who are, taking care of each other and stuff like that. And then in the next breath, you have zero industry standards, zero foundations, and you have a situation where everyone's just undercutting each other and racing to the bottom, right? And so my biggest learning is I don't want to race to the bottom. I want to like the people in my industry. I want to look up to some people. There are certainly people that I look up to. I want to, and I want to, but I think for me, the biggest learning is just that it's not an industry anymore, sadly, right? And one of my mentors in the industry and someone I will reference a lot is Dr. Joe Goldblatt, and he's a professor who lives in Scotland. He's the guy that kind of wrote the book on events, and literally the book, textbooks, etc. He was also the founder of the International Special Events Society, which is now ILEA, or one of the founding members, I should say. And, I always am telling people that his position now is that this is an industry, it's a vocation, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is sad. The people who made up the industry allowed it to fragment so badly, didn't understand how to keep staff, didn't understand how to grow businesses, didn't understand how to scale, didn't understand how to either raise money, put money back in the industry. They just wanted to be showy and walk around going, I won awards and I did events. And now we have a situation where everybody has their own company. And so that's my learning, right? Is that we are not anymore a business. And I'll tell you, yesterday we got a response on an RFP, and I'm always very honest about these things. It clearly wasn't the best fit for us, but we went through a process over 6 months, and the letter came in, and what it said was there was not enough value. Okay, now I know that at the end of this RFP process, and James, I'm giving you a great example here, that they opened the pricing, right? That was the last 20% of the evaluation. And they didn't look at the pricing until after they had narrowed it down to whatever it was, 3 or 4 companies, right? And clearly when it says value, it means we were too expensive at the end, right? So we got the least amount of points for pricing. We might have been the top company going in, and we got the least amount of points for pricing. But if you're the top company going into that process, shouldn't you also be the most expensive? Yeah. Or close to there? So the expectation in our industry is, and what's happening is that it's okay to be second or third best and race to the bottom in terms of price because people are, working out of their basements and doing this and doing that, and they don't need the money as much. I have a staff of people that I want to support and I want them to grow. And so, yeah, that's really the vocation of this industry is just.
Yeah. It gets a little out of hand for sure. It's everyone's doing it their own way. It's the best way that I can put it.
Absolutely. And you know what? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Right. Even people would be surprised to know that even big business owners in other markets, they may not like each other. They may not like business practices, but guess what? They get together and they talk about these things because they're important to growing businesses and industries. And if my biggest competitor starts to grow and starts to charge more, well, guess what? I get to grow and charge more.
Yeah.
Right. So we should be on a level playing field in terms of pricing, give or take, right? You want to make a little bit of a reduction to a client. Okay. That happens all over the place. Right. But if I said to you, what does a creative director in the event industry charge? What's their hourly rate for a good creative director?
It's all over the place. That's the
I,
thing.
I couldn't even tell you.
Standard.
Right. So, that can't be a good thing for an industry.
Right.
And so there you go.
Okay, that's the biggest learning.
That's it.
I like that one. Next is a really good one. So this is from Michelle. She says, what do you believe is the most ridiculous trend or practice that event organizers often follow?
I mean, we don't have that long. Honestly, like, I think trying to follow these, people read magazines, like, the industry publications and stuff like that. And they go, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. I think that people are always trying to shove trends and event practices like into square boxes, circular, and I think that what really happens again is nothing is proprietary.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, everybody just fragments their company. It's kind of an offset of someone else's company. And I keep going back to this thing because who's actually innovating? No, there are a couple people for sure, but those are the companies that are growing. Yeah, I don't know. I think everyone calling themselves experiential at this point is probably, though, the one that bothers me most.
Yeah. Most ridiculous trend or practice. Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone's all of a sudden experiential.
Yeah. You see it everywhere. You can't get away from it these days.
Right.
Whether it's posts on LinkedIn or these publications, these magazines that you look in, it's everywhere. That's
for sure.
Cool term these days.
For sure. The other thing, this is the other thing that bothers me, by the way, people's titles, right? That the queen of this, or the king of this, or the social butterfly of this, stop it, right? You're a project coordinator, right? You're a president, you're a business owner, right? It's the same thing, for example, that I hate the term event planner. Event planners don't make money, right? Queen social butterfly doesn't make money, right? King of design doesn't make money, right? Creative directors make money, presidents make money, project coordinators or project managers or whatever. Those are titles. They make money. You can qualify that position, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to stop with all this, like trying to be creative with our titles and our this and our that, right? Personal pet peeve. Yeah.
You're preaching now, Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next one. These are going to get a little spicier as we go down. Okay, so get ready. Wes is asking, how do you stay inspired? And this is a really good question because I was wondering the same thing, with you being the founder of Fifth Element and all that you guys do, traveling the world, all these things that you're fulfilling for customers and activations. That's got to be really tiring for you and exhausting, but also exciting in the same way because you're helping customers and clients out and making their business successful too. But how do you stay inspired at the end of the day, personally and then professionally? I'm going to add that one in there to his question.
Yeah. I think they're part and parcel. For me, I'm inspired by the people around me. I'm inspired by the opportunity to affect and change people's emotions on a daily basis with the work that we do. I'm inspired by leading. And, I'm inspired by the idea that while I think the business of events is in a really crappy place, it doesn't have to be. And I'm inspired by the people who came before me and who taught me how to be here. And I'm inspired by some of the young people I see who, really are still so new that they have dreams about some of the things that they'll do, I stay inspired by the world around me, younger people and older people and pop culture and everything in between. And, my kids do crazy things and I'm inspired by that. And, I think I've built such an amazing, sphere of things around me that keep me inspired. And, so I think professionally and personally, it all kind of blends in, right? Like I get to be, because my kids are young, I get to, enjoy things like, watching the MTV Awards, I love the MTV Awards. When I was young, I loved the MTV Awards. And then when my kids were young, I probably took a bit of a break, right? Because maybe it didn't relate, or I'd watch the last performance because like they always do some kind of throwback,
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses is on, or some, great rapper from 20 years ago or whatever, But now I watch it and I go, this is cool because it's a TikTok trend, or it's, this or this artist. Like, I love these TikTok artists. I think it's the coolest thing that they can find a song or find a way. And some of it's awful. Let's just be honest. Like, some of the music's awful, but those are people who got inspired by something. Right. And so I think that's really, those are the things that inspire me. I look at things through different lenses as I get a little bit older. And it's great.
All right. So there you have it. That's how, Aaron stays inspired on a day-to-day basis.
Gotta have energy, right? You gotta love what you do, and you gotta wake up in the morning. You gotta go, I have the energy for this. Good day, bad day, win jobs, lose jobs, whatever else, right? You gotta say, this is cool. Like, I get to be, I'll tell you what, this is probably the time where I should say, someone sent to me the other day, there was a PhD who was speaking on a stage at an industry event. I won't say what industry event because I don't want to, simply because it's probably might be a competitor of yours. So, but a PhD gets on a stage, and what they said was, event planning and management is the third most stressful profession in the world, right? And I will call out this PhD. Apparently her name is Julie Williamson. And I want to tell you that that's absolute nonsense. If you ever are in a job, in an industry, coming into a job, you're a young person, an older person, or whatever else, and you buy the complete BS that the New York Times prints about this being the third most stressful industry in the world, get out.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm inspired by the idea that that's not the truth. Right. I'm inspired by the fact that we get to do unbelievable things. This is a privilege.
Right.
Right. If you don't feel that way and you're working 80-hour weeks, I'm like, stop it. Just stop. You don't need to do that. If you're working for free for clients, you don't need to do that. So those are the things for me where I go, we need to stop this. So I'm inspired by the idea that we can make this change. We first need to stop allowing that type of messaging on our stages and in our education and teaching young people about that. Because why would they ever want to do this?
Right.
But that's something for me that, we can talk a little more about this most stressful thing. But if you're in, an army, a Navy, you're saving lives, you're window cleaning 200 stories up.
Yeah.
Right. I'd be more stressed doing that than sitting here trying to figure out, what lighting look or what centerpiece I need on a table.
What color scheme to use. Exactly.
Right. How many people have to get to opportunities to do, one take things and being on stage? I could think of 50, 100 more stressful jobs than ours. And so that's something for me that when I wake up in the morning, I go, that's my mission. That's a mission, to set a foundation for the industry and really disprove this idea that it has to be. We can have stressful days. Everyone has stressful days. A week can be stressful. You will get a big job coming up. But if you think someone else, doesn't get stressed when they're making a big pitch, of course, that's part of life, right? Being stressed out a little bit is just part of the world, but not like that. So I'm inspired to change that messaging. I'm inspired to talk to people and consult with people and get on stages and say, if we were to build a foundation for this industry, if we were to set some rules, some guidelines, some standards, some basic operating things that we could teach clients to look for, right? Then we could really make change. We could make money. We could do all these great things. And I believe in the people coming into this industry, right? I believe in the young people. I believe we're scaring them away because we talk about this stressful nonsense. But I believe that with new energy, because we need it, the old energy isn't good. New energy, new ideas, new concepts, new plans, new businesses, new investments, new ideas, all of these things, I believe we could get there fast. And so professionally, I guess, that's kind of what keeps me going. And doing shows like this, man, you're awesome. And this is cool. And, I'm really enjoying this. So, keep doing what you're doing too, because I bet you're inspiring a group of people to think differently and answer questions out loud. And I think that's awesome.
Well, thanks, Aaron. I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think it's a point of interest for all of us who are in the industry, who have been in the industry for a while now. I got into this industry because it was something unique. It was something different than what everyone else was doing, when I was coming up and when I was in college and when I was interning, and something really just got me on to events. It's been a point of interest for me and a hobby when I was younger, just kind of shadowing other event planners, even before college.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. Something clicked.
Yeah, for sure.
I got it. It got me. I felt really welcome in this space of the events industry. And I'm glad that I stuck it out. I'm glad that I did the dirty work. I'm glad that I interned, all the internships that I did, all the, kind of free jobs actually that I did do for a while there. But I went really quick, in the early days.
And now you're a celebrity podcaster.
That's very funny. Maybe we'll get there at some point.
Absolutely.
But in these conversations we're having now, where you can just be open and talk about things, the industry is not perfect. And we have a long way to go. And we have to kind of join forces with each other and set these industry standards and really make it an open place where people can come in who are new, that new energy that you talked about. Would love to see their ideas and how they're going to infiltrate the events industry and what changes they're going to help make. As we start, getting older and they start coming in, I think it's going to be a really great time in the events industry, but we still have a long ways, to go. Yeah.
And, I'll tell you this, I know we're going to move on to a couple more questions, but just as a point of reference, if you look at some of the big associations and you look at, the Event Industry Council as an example, right? The representation from young people is zero. Yeah. Right. What kind of energy do people who are already running associations and stuff like that have to change things? Where's the penchant for change there? There isn't any. Why would they? They're already on the top. Yeah. Change is just scary for them. Right. So, but all of a sudden, what happens if you put in some young energy? Right. What happens if you find young people who are finding success in the industry? And I will tell you that every industry everywhere has young entrepreneurs who are finding success, who are both, raising the bar for people and pushing the older entrepreneurs, right? It happens everywhere. Marketing companies blow up, ad companies blow up, stock companies, investment, young people making money, right? Yeah. You show me one young person in this industry who's stepped up, who's under the age of 40 or 45, right? Who's making a great big business, who's growing a real business that could be, supporting hundreds of employees and raising the bar, and you show me that person, how that person is educating other young people. It doesn't exist, because all of the older industries and industry people and associations, they're all pushing down, and therein lies the problem. So we need to do better. Yeah,
let's do better. Stacy writes, we often hear about the glamorous side of events. It's not the truth. Mm-hmm. But what's the ugliest truth about the industry that you think more people should be aware of? Maybe this, I think you've alluded to a couple of things, but take it from here.
Yeah. I just think that, there's a lot of people who to your face will be extra nice and super nice because they're not sure if you're going to be on the come up or not. Mm-hmm. And it's not a genuine group of people all the time. And I think that's really the hardest part, right? You will continue to get pushed down, and you will continue to hear stories about the most stressed and whatever. And a lot of these, a lot of business owners in the industry will even say, they do say that this is the most stressful. So, this is nothing new. And if you can't hack it and whatever else, it's all bullshit. So that's really the ugly truth, is that, there's just no real foundation for what's acceptable in our industry. And so a lot of people I know, they either get into the industry and leave, or they just, they don't ever get better, or, stuff like that. And that's why they go on their own. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think, again, going back to one of our first questions, find a mentor, find someone you trust, find someone who will put you ahead of them.
Right.
Right. I don't always need to be the face of this company. Right. I am by default, but I don't need to be. And so I put my staff in front of me all the time. Right. In fact, the more I can insulate myself, the more I can grow the business.
Right.
Right. And so I think that that's really something important. Like it can't always be this way. It's got to change. The industry has to change. It just has to. And so that's really the ugly truth, is that, you have an older generation of people who are just not willing to do that. And they want to, stay relevant as long as they can. And unlike other industries where as people grow their companies, they become, more, they sit on other boards and do other things and, open other businesses and whatever. This industry doesn't do that because people are so scared and their egos are so big that they just can't find their way out of being the person, right? In charge.
The person at the top. Yeah.
Yep.
True. Yeah. More control. They can do it their own way.
Well, they want to say, this is mine. I did this.
Yeah.
Right. And, I'll tell you for a fact, like creative in my company, I definitely sit in on the meetings. I definitely have some input for sure, but I'm just a team member.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
It's a good way
I'm a team member. The only thing that separates me from everyone else in my office is A, I sign a check, right? And B, if a final decision needs to be made on something or there's a dispute or an issue, right? That's my job. But nothing else separates me. In fact, most of the office is better at their given job than I would be at their given job.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more. These are good. Terry writes in and says, in your experience, what's the biggest mistake event planners make when trying to create a memorable experience?
Well, they try to create a memorable experience. You can't try.
There you go.
You can't try. You gotta go with what you think is right for the brand, what you think is right for the clients. A memorable experience can be 10 seconds as part of a 5-hour event. The thing for me is that, the work sometimes, it's just we've done things in my office like, floating centerpieces and things like that, right? The event itself, take it or leave it. But that's your memorable experience, right? People left that job saying, good event, everything worked well, good speakers, whatever, right? The client, though, didn't want a big experience, but we made it memorable because everyone's centerpiece was floating, right? And that was just one thing to do on a table to create conversation. And so I think that's the biggest mistake is everyone's trying so hard to be experiential and trying so hard and no one's actually doing anything new. They're just seeing something online and trying to recreate it and, spending so much time trying to do something memorable. And I think, again, we don't track data very well. People will dispute this with me, but we don't, right? We don't. So we don't have any quantifiable, math or anything which suggests whether an event was, more memorable. So do what the brand or client or company requires. Add in your specific pop of creativity, your idea, your whatever else, but don't try. Don't try. If it's not memorable, maybe it's not meant to be memorable. Right? But it doesn't mean you're not providing value to the client. If the client's hiring you, you give them what they need. You give them great service. You give them great quality. You give them great creative. And that's what becomes memorable. Yeah. But not every job is meant to be that way.
Right. I think a lot of event planners too, I see it quite a bit. I think COVID helped us a little bit take a step back from us being just event planners, like, going and doing and thinking of it from the attendee's experience, going back to that moment where, is it a memorable event for the event planner or for the attendee? And that's where we get it wrong a lot of times.
So 2 things. Let's change some of the vocabulary even that you're using, and let's start calling everyone event professionals instead of event planners.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's a title that is representative of an industry of people who are doing real work.
Right.
I think number 2, when you talk about memorable things, the other side of the coin, right, is that many events are memorable because of things that weren't positive. So sometimes the best case scenario is it's just not memorable at all. Right? Registration went smooth. How many times do you hear, like I went to this event, the speakers were awesome, but I had to wait an hour to get into the event and the food sucked.
Yep.
So what's the core memory there? Is the core memory the speaker was great? Or is the core memory they waited an hour to get in and the food sucked?
Yeah.
Or, I had registered early and it didn't work, or they didn't have a seat for me, or whatever, right? The linens were silk and they were slidey, and it was a served dinner, and so everything was kind of sliding all over the place. There was no water, whatever, right? That's what you hear from an event. Very rarely do you hear everyone come out of an event and go, "Let me tell you what was cool about that." Right? There's always complaints that go with it. So, as an event professional, if you can really show value by eliminating all of the things that people would complain about, right? Now you'll start to create positive memories.
Yeah.
And that's really what our industry needs, because then again, we can start setting value on our time and on the job we're doing.
Right. Agreed. All right. 2 more questions for you, Aaron. Robert says, what is one unconventional approach you've taken to enhance attendee engagement and experience that others might find controversial but effective?
I mean, I don't know that I don't aim for controversy, when designing. I think, the idea for me is really that you have to be able to aim for the largest group of people. So, I always want to understand who's coming to my event. So even before we write a pitch, I will say, just give me the demographic.
Yeah.
Right. And I will definitely lean to that. Right. So, is it controversial that I would, lean the design of an event towards, a certain group of people or whatever else? Well, of course not. But if it is, then great. I'm not trying to always be, the police when we design an experience in terms of like, this has to be perfect for everybody.
Yeah.
It has to be perfect for the people who are going to be coming. And so if that's controversial that I would design an event with the demographic in mind, maybe. Right. But I know that if I'm designing for 20-year-olds who are mostly the demographic, or C-suites, or a certain group of people, or, this or that or whatever else, that's how I'm creating that experience for that group of people. And, we definitely need to take the time to profile who's coming, profile the client. And so we do that. Right. And, there are some clients who are okay with, some boundaries, and some clients who are not okay with some boundaries, and some clients who are okay with venues that have, all unisex bathrooms, and some clients that are not, and whatever else. And those are just nuances of clients. And we work for clients. Right. And so, I know that creative companies don't always have to agree with their clients. Right. I'm all in for everything being open and everyone coming and everyone this, but some clients don't necessarily want that. And they want to attract the male 40 to 60 C-suite, whatever, because that's their buying customer.
Yeah.
And what am I supposed to do? Tell them, no, we're going to design this event for everybody in case other people come. I'm just trying to show them value.
Right. That's a good one. Okay. You ready for the last one here?
Yeah.
This one is from Erica. Erica gets the last question. Okay. The events industry is highly competitive. What is one untapped opportunity you think event professionals can leverage for greater success?
Oh, man.
Something untapped.
I think the idea of growth. I think that event professionals in general don't look 5 and 10 years down the road. I think today they're having fun and there is no stability. And so I would say for everybody, have a conversation with the owner of your company on your growth plan. Ask them tough questions. What are your targets? What are your plans? Can I see, can we work on it? Do you have a strat plan? Do you have an analysis of where you want to be? I think too many people are so scared of the senior group in this industry that they don't say, I'd like to take on the idea of rebranding, looking at your website, understanding your data. They just don't do it, right? They're like, oh, I work with this person and they do great events. And yes, that's a thing. But understand what the the goals of the company are, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a 4-person company, what are your goals?
Yeah.
What are your plans? What are your ideas? Where do you want to be? How are you planning on getting there? Right? Where is your strength? Where is your weakness? How can I supplement you?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can you pay? You're not good at a CRM. You're not good at, understanding a CRM and how it works. Great. Can I take a course? Right? Are you willing to pay me for a course? Can I upskill? Maybe we should sub this particular thing out.
Mm-hmm. Find
right?
those gaps.
Absolutely. And then take advantage of them. Like every other company and every other business around the world, right? Make yourself more valuable.
Right.
Because I'll tell you what, those are the people that I look for. The people who tell me they hit ceilings, right? My company, Fifth Element, there is a glass ceiling, right? I expect every one of my staff to break through it. We've had staff go down to the special event show as the best up and coming. So, they've gone out there. We've had all of our team have won awards for one thing or another. Our creative directors listed on on all the most influential stuff, as am I. I always am looking to put my staff ahead, and they understand what my plans are. They understand when things are good and not good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I'm frustrated because, I haven't had an opportunity to network as much, I've been stuck in some projects and things like that. They know it. Right? And I will look at one of them and say, listen, you have to learn how to do this because it can't continue to fall on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even if it's in a bit of a frustrated state, I'm basically asking staff to learn to do things differently. And I will tell them, if you need some help, some guidance, come talk to me, but you have to try and figure this out.
Yeah.
Because I can't keep copying into projects at this particular point. And then we learn. Right? So yeah, that's it, right? Don't worry about the competitiveness. It's not actually really that competitive at all. Right? Because the truth is there's 1,000 companies or 100,000 companies, doesn't really matter. Right? And nobody actually knows what anyone else is charging and doing and whatever else. It would be competitive if we worked more like an ad agency where people are going out for agency of record contracts, which is our goal as a company, right? We like to sign agency of record contracts, MSAs, and things like that so that we don't have to spend as much time and money procuring. Right. That being said, it's not really that competitive if we broke it down, because the competitive part of marketing and ad industries, which I look at as closest to ours, right, which is why I reference them a lot. The competitive part only comes when you're bidding to become an AOR, right, or there's a big bid out there. Otherwise, there's very little competition, right? They compete in the actual function of their job creatively, right? So who can create the best ad? Who can create the best online campaign? That's different, right? That's a competition that as an industry we should love. Because if I'm able to compete with 3 or 4 other companies and I put them on and they put me on and we're all competing for who is the best, well, that's great. That's good for everybody. Mm-hmm. Even if I don't win being the best, I'm amongst the best. I'm in that conversation every day, and that's great. Right? So there's not that much competition, really. There's just a lot of people. Right? Weed out the noise and look at the people who are around you and the companies who compete with you. And there really isn't that much.
Yeah. So go out and find those holes, those gaps. And that's where that untapped opportunity is lying.
Go get it. Oh man, listen, there is so much opportunity, so much money, so much potential, so many ideas, just I will say this to every upcoming event professional: don't feel the need to be an expert. Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about getting on stages. You need to go speak here. You need to go speak there. Don't do it. Don't do it. You have nothing to teach as an upcoming event professional. You have everything to learn.
That's right.
So if you're in the industry 2 years and you're professing to be an expert on something, you're really not. What you're doing is you're going to go up there and do a commercial on either your job or your company. We did this. Next slide. We did this. When a client came to us, we did this. When a client came to us, we did this. You're not teaching anything.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to know your specific process unless you've been doing it for 20 years and you have a formula behind it.
Right.
So therein lies one opportunity I think people think is untapped. I'm going to get on a stage. I'm going to promote. You're not promoting anything. You're just talking about yourself.
I love it. That's good, Aaron.
Yeah.
Now, that was the last question, but I wanted to sneak one in there for you.
Great. Let's do it.
So last one.
Yeah.
This is for me. Do you think the industry is ready for another, should I say, global pandemic or world event in the future?
Honestly, no. Here's the thing, right? Like, in order to be ready for these things, it's not just about can we work, right? And so, yes, could we, I hate the idea that people pivoted. That's stupid. You don't pivot, right? Businesses don't pivot. Nobody pivoted. What they did was continue to provide the function for their clients that they were providing before, which is bringing people together and delivering a message or an experience.
Right.
Nobody pivoted. You don't pivot from live events to virtual events. It's events, right? It's like saying you pivoted because you renovated a kitchen today and a bathroom tomorrow. No, it's a renovation, right? It all has the same function. There's plumbing, there's lighting. So the thing for me is that what we didn't learn is that businesses need to be stronger. The foundation needs to be better, because how many great people left our industry because business owners had no plans?
Yeah.
And shame on them, right? Absolutely shame on them. The talent has been drained out of our industry because no one wants to come back. The people have no idea what they're doing. I can't tell you how many people I talk to in a day where I'm like, have you never done this before? Right? And that's okay, but someone's got to be teaching them. And so, no, we're not ready, and not because we can't provide the function of our jobs. In fact, we really enjoyed the idea that we got to work on different platforms and do different things. And, everyone started copying the idea, we're going to send a box of this and we're going to, whatever, right? Sure. But we were prepared from the standpoint that we were strong as a business. Right. We had the foundation of having some capital, and we had some money and the ability and resources to be able to stay in business. And in fact, I'll tell you what, up here, they had this thing where you weren't allowed to keep your office open really for a long time. And we were here every day together because we knew that we were going to continue to work. The first few days were scary, of course, a lot of money out the door and a lot of business gone, but we continued working. We came up with a strategy very quickly. We came up with an approach very quickly. We didn't panic. And did we have our best years ever? No, nobody did, but I never once pivoted to anything. We are an experience firm, not an experiential firm. We are an experience firm. And so, where we were not able to do live experience. So yes, certainly we were, working with anybody who we felt could provide us with opportunities to deliver different virtual experiences and digital experiences and pre-records and all kinds of things. But at the core of what we were doing, we were just looking for results on how to get our clients' message to their employees or, people who buy their products, or, and business was still happening. So, I think if there was another pandemic, and let's hope there isn't, because a lot of people suffered, of course.
Yeah.
But I think no. The answer is no. It's not ready, and it would just suffer more. And I don't think anyone learned anything. And we came out of it doing the exact same shit that we were doing before.
Yeah.
The exact same nonsense. Nobody, in fact, with the inflation and increase in cost, I think as many companies are struggling because of that coming out of it. And if you couldn't forecast that, right, then what were you doing? And how many people pivoted to virtual, changed their website, did all this stuff, and then the day everything opened, they pivoted back. That's not a pivot,
right?
So yeah, no, we just aren't prepared. And sadly, I think, other industries also learned how to take advantage of us. They learned, that they could in fact do what we do, and marketing and ad agencies are now adding AOR for events, live and virtual, into their contracts. And so you'll find that we better mature really, really fast. We better pull a Mad Men, in the 2020s and find a way by the end of the decade to really be a force in business. Forget the creative, forget the events, that's just the vehicle for what we do. I really think that pandemic, no pandemic, next pandemic, whatever, we need to find a way to be a force in business.
Right.
Marketing companies made a ton of money over the pandemic.
They did.
So did ad companies. We should have been right there with them. So we need to level up and fast. Right.
I think I'm amazed even now that we're 3, plus years out of this, that a lot of companies still don't have a DR plan. And that's one thing that's always on my mind, I mean, with us, with vFairs being in the virtual event space and of course, hybrid and in person too, I just wonder if anyone learned much else from that moving forward in the future, because we weren't ready.
Yeah.
No one was.
Yeah. I think it's just become a bigger race to the bottom. I think it's just become more disjointed. I think all the people who work for companies who got laid off are now trying to do their own things.
Yeah.
God, it's really, it's not a good situation out there. And, again, I love what we do, right? I feel like it just needs some leadership, and I've stood on stages before and I've been yelled at and, all kinds of weird things because people are working for free and people are lowering the bar. And this all comes, to pass because when you say, are we ready for these types of things? Well, if we're not making money, if we're not making enough money, we're not banking money, and we're not growing companies, and we're not learning how to either buy other small companies, marketing companies, digital marketing companies, whatever else, we're not growing our services, then of course not. Right. And so it just goes back to the most basic fundamentals of business to say, of course, we're not ready. We're just doing the same shit we used to do, maybe even for less money.
Yeah. Right.
And so everyone's just, kind of flailing around trying to figure it out. And at the end of the day, we just can't do that. It's unsophisticated. It's just not a formula for success.
Just some things for our listeners to think about.
Yes. Couple things.
Yes. Aaron, this was a lot of fun. I had the best time picking your brain, stirring the pot a little bit with some of our questions. Again, thank you to everyone who submitted these questions. They were brilliant. But I wanted to ask you first, is there anything you wanted to leave with the audience before we sign off? Obviously, where to find you is the biggest thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I do want to encourage people that in spite of all of the challenges in our industry, there is a tremendous opportunity for change. There's a tremendous opportunity for success. And it is one of the greatest industries or vocations, but jobs that we could have. It is not the third most stressful industry. And it is a privilege to be here every day working with my clients, working with great people like yourself, Candace, and working, with all of the great people that I have the opportunity to work with across North America and in the industry. And so I urge everybody who wants to get into this industry, who's thinking about it, jump in with 2 feet, be great at what you do, work your ass off. And in the words of my son's goalie coach, don't be shit. So that being said, where to reach me? I'm happy to talk to people and field questions. So please don't feel shy. Best place to find me is on LinkedIn, just because that's a personal spot for me where I can be reached. You can also find Fifth Element Group online. Best place there is obviously website, fifthelementgroup.com, FIFTH, though I really don't like our website, and we're about to have some fun with, I think, a refresh and stuff. And if you want to see our work, Instagram, Fifth Element GRP with the @ so at Fifth Element GRP. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me, LinkedIn's the best place, or you can feel free to email me anytime. Although no spam, please, and no requests for weird things. Like I don't want to buy porta potties or whatever else. Email is Aaron, AARON, at fifth, FIFTH, elementgroup.com.
No solicitors, please, right?
Unless you're selling something really awesome or a company. If you're selling a good company, I'm all in for that too.
Nice. Well, thanks a lot, Aaron. It was so much fun having you on this episode. Really good chatting with you. And we even found each other on LinkedIn through one of our friends. So there you go. Find it on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And I didn't say out and about, and I'll leave you with one last A.
Oh. All right. I'll take it.
Thank you. Candace, I just want to say before we go, you're doing an awesome job. And I've seen the podcast before, and I'll continue to watch. And you know what? You're somebody who's definitely allowing people the opportunity to speak and be heard. And, hopefully some of this stuff can help some other people. And if you're helping people in the industry with more success, then you are doing more than most. And I appreciate you. And I'm sure the industry does as well.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. That really does. This is a platform for me to have people who are doing amazing things out there and want to talk about it. And want to talk about the hard topics.
Absolutely.
Like we are doing today. So I appreciate you saying that. Really do. And if you want to chat with us here at vFairs, please reach out to us. Feel free to reach and find me on LinkedIn as well. You can also send us an email at sales@vfairs.com. Happy to help you out there. Until the next episode, peace, love.